Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today is March 24th and I wanna show you my beautiful orchids because I see these orchids every day and I'm very happy and I wanna give you good mood too. That's why I decided to make this video. I never have chance to show you my beautiful orchids which are blooming all the time because I have problems and I wanna share with you how to deal with that kind of problems, and that's why I never had chance to show you my orchids. Of course I showed you when I bought them, but when they bloom in my house, how they bloom, I didn't have chance. Today I have for you these orchids which are in front of you. These are my mini Phalaenopsis orchids, and now when you see them, if you don't see their blooms, you will never tell that these are mini orchids, but they are mini orchids. See how huge leaves they have now. In my previous videos I showed you last year how I feed my orchids. In that videos you can find these orchids, and they were small that time. Now they are huge, they are giants. If you don't see their blooms, you will never tell that they're mini Phalaenopsis orchids, but they are minis because we can differentiate mini orchid from big orchid from their blooms. See, they have tiny flowers. They have tiny flowers and they're mini orchids, and this orchid is not mini. You see how huge it is. It has huge flowers. See, the flower cannot fit in my hands. See, it's covering all my 4 fingers, but these are my mini orchids. See how tiny they are. And these orchids, they bloom, and they are blooming better than the last year I showed you. They had big long flower spikes, especially these mini ones, and see how big spikes they have this year, and they have lots of flowers. And this orchid, even it's finishing its blooming because the flowers are old now. This spike was full of flowers. Now I don't have some of flowers here. They fell, and see how huge flower spike it has. This is my hand, and it's filling 2 of my 2 hands. See, it has lots of flowers. And here I want to show you my other orchids. See, these orchids I purchased last year. This one from first orchid from Florida, when I was in Florida, for $4, and that time it was blooming. I showed you these orchids, and now they are reblooming from the primary spike. They grew secondary spikes and they are blooming now. And this is my Dendrobium orchid. You see, this one started blooming, this one pink one, and the green one and yellow ones, they already bloomed and they finished blooming. My dendrobiums, except red ones, they all bloomed for me after I purchased. They bloomed in my house. And now I don't want to talk about Dendrobium orchids. Today's my topic is about my Phalaenopsis orchids. I have here my vandas on the windowsill. These vandas are covering the light. They don't let the light go into my orchids, and that's why I keep this card between the windowsill and between my growing light. This card is staying between, and these orchids, if they cannot accept light from the window, they will accept from my growing light. That's why I keep this card between the windowsill and my growing light shelf. And here I'm moving a little bit. See, this orchid, I love its color. It's a very pretty color. I don't know how you like it or not, but this is my favorite color. It's great orchid, and this orchid See, it's growing. It grew for me from the primary spike. It grew for me secondary spike, and from secondary spike this much flowers I have now. But it's not end, because it's continuing growing the buds, new buds, and probably I will have more longer flower spike from this orchid. Here I am gonna move it a little bit, and let's show you guys my other orchids. This white one, see here I have this white orchid. It's huge spike. I don't know how many feet it is now, but it's huge orchid, huge spike. But this spike grew from the secondary, from the primary spike. It's not for primary, this is secondary spike. And I want to talk about this orchid a little bit. This orchid, I don't know, for somehow it dropped its buds. Here it had buds, and those buds, they didn't bloom, they fell. It was blasted. And see how it is growing now. These orchid flowers are huge, and I love them. When it's shining outside, it's sunny outside, sun, when these orchids are in sun, you need to see, and they will make your eyes happy. They shimmer, and you cannot take your eyes away from these flowers. And here I have my Phalaenopsis orchids, mini ones. Here this orchid, it bloomed for me last year, and now it's blooming again. It grew a new spike, and it's blooming now. And see, it's continuing. It was in full bloom, and now it's continuing growing its spike here, and it's forming new buds for me. And there I have other orchids. See if you can see, but this light is not showing, is not letting to show you the true color of these orchids. It's little bit not pretty under this growing light, but anyway, I will show you how they are blooming. Here I have other orchids, big orchids. I want to show you first my big orchids. This one, see how it's growing its spike. See, it's growing. It has lots of spikes from the primary spike. It has lots of spikes growing. It's branching. This spike is branching, and today it started blooming for me. See, now flowers are small, but later on they will grow, and they become a little bit more larger size. And here I have this orchid. This orchid, it bloomed for me. It started blooming for me last year, and I still have this orchid. See how huge spike it has. This orchid I showed you in my video, which I bought my orchids from First Orchid from Florida for $4. And this orchid at that time, it had 8 flowers. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pairs of flowers. See, and now I thought that it's end, but it started forming another buds here. See, now it's forming another buds, and it's continuing growing. And here I have my this yellow orchid. It's pretty. This orchid I got from my friend Vlasta. She gave it for me. I always talk about her. I have friend who loves flowers very much, and we are very good friends with her, and close friends. And she gave me this orchid last year, and now this orchid is blooming for me. I didn't cut its old spike. Sometimes they grow from the primary spike they grow secondary spikes, like in this case. See here, I didn't cut these spikes, and I have from these spikes growing other new spikes here. And I want to talk about this orchid in different video, because I don't want to make this video long. That's why I need to tell you something about this orchid. I have something to share with you guys. Keep in your mind. And here, this orchid, it decided to grow new spike, and it's blooming from the new spike. It didn't develop. It didn't develop from the primary spike, secondary spike. That's why it didn't bloom. Sometimes if we see this kind of picture, we can cut this spike because it's not working. Sometimes they grow spikes from the primary spike, and they can make your eyes happy. See this orchid, this white orchid, it has primary spike, and from primary spike it grew secondary spike. See how long it is? It's the size of my hands. See, look at this, it's touching my shoulder. It's long orchid. Sometimes from the primary spike you cannot see this kind of picture, but sometimes from secondary spikes they grow this kind of long spikes and they bloom for you. And here I have the mini orchid. See how beautiful it is. And I want to talk about this orchid in separate video too, because I want to share with you how I got this kind of blooms. There is something to share with you guys. And here I have my fragrant mini orchid. This pink one is fragrant one, and it started blooming last year also. This one is started blooming last year, and still I have from them flowers. And I need to tell you something about these orchids. And here I have this orchid. In my previous videos I talked about this orchid, and I told you that how you can deal with the orchid which has all dried roots. The time I showed you that example with this orchid. This orchid had all dried roots, and I told you how to water this kind of orchid. And now you see it grew for me from the primary spike. It grew for me secondary spike, and I have 4 flowers from the secondary spike. And this is primary. It grew for me new spike, and it has lots of flowers from the primary spikes too. You see, you learn something from this. And here I have very beautiful orchid. I don't know from which way you need to see that. Maybe I will go that way and I will show you. This orchid, see how beautiful flowers it has. It's making my eyes happy every day when I see this orchid. See, it's pretty orchid. And there I have my, here I have my orchid, see, which is sitting in this pot. In my previous videos I showed you this orchid. Probably you remember this orchid. And it started growing from the secondary spike. It started growing from the primary. It started growing secondary spike, and it's blooming. And it also grew for me primary spike, new spike, and it's blooming for me. See, all of them are blooming. And this is my epidendrum orchid. I had accident with this orchid. My baby and my younger daughters, they dropped this orchid, and my older daughter, she was scared and she put it back and she didn't tell me anything. And later on I saw that this orchid was dying, and I did something. I will share with you about the story of this orchid too later. And here I have my my orchids which I bought from Lowe's, and still I have blooms from them. See, you know this orchid, I already showed you these orchids. and after replanting I fed them twice, and see, feeding it affected to one of this, it dropped its flowers, but the other one it's still with this with the flowers, and I will talk about this later. I have lots of things to share with you guys, but there is no time to make a video. And here I have other my mini orchids. See, from the primary spike, this is primary, and I had blooms in this spike last year, and this year it decided to continue its continue blooming from the same spike, and at the same time it's growing new spike. If you see this spike, it's growing new spike, and it wants to bloom for me too. And I have orchids in other rooms, in my daughter's room. I will show you those orchids, and at the end of the video I will show you something probably you never saw, that kind of orchid, Phalaenopsis orchid, but blooming different. I never saw that orchid, that kind of blooms. Probably you didn't see also, and I will show you that orchid too. This is northeast facing window, and I keep some of my orchids in this room. This room is very cold. My daughter doesn't sleep in this room during the winter time, but these orchids are surviving in this room. I don't have room for these orchids, but these orchids were in this room since I purchased them. 2 years ago I bought them, and still I keep them in this room. Look at this, what is happening with this orchid. I will share the story of this orchid, why it's happening with this orchid. This see, it started getting sick, and I will tell you why later on. But today I want to show you my beautiful orchids. See this orchid, see, it from this old spike it grew these new spikes. In no time it started growing these new spikes, and it's reblooming for me. See, and here this one here, this orchid, I don't know, it makes you happy. See, when it just bloomed, it has this color, different color. See, it's close to red, orange, and maybe peach color or apricot color, and later on it becomes purple or pink, mixed purple and pink mixture color. See how it looks when it gets old. My son is telling me that these orchids are in 2 different pots. Yes, they are in 2 different pots, but they are same orchids which have same color of flowers. But when they just start blooming, they have this color, and when they get old, they have this color. See how it will change. See, if I put them together, you can see the difference. This is old flower, this is new, but in both stages it's pretty. See? And here I have my orchid. This orchid, my hero, it's growing the flowers every time from the old spike. I never cut this spike. I bought this orchid from Walmart. You saw this orchid in my previous videos lots of time. Last year it grew this spikes. See, from the primary it grew this secondary spike, and here I have secondary spike from primary, and this one it's secondary spike also. Last year I had 3 spikes from the primary spike, and this year I have again 3 spikes from the secondary spikes. See, here I have spike, and here I have spike. And you know, when you grow plants, every time you learn something, and you can never tell that you know everything about the plants. Every day they surprise you. Every day you learn something. And I have another orchid which is blooming for me. It has strange shape of flowers, and let's follow me and I will show you that orchid now, and I will finish my video. The last flowers, the last ones are these both orchids. This orchid, you know this orchid, I got it from my friend Vlasta. She gave it to me, and you know, I transplanted this orchid from the soil, from potting soil. It was growing in potting soil, and I replanted it in my orchid medium. And see, it's blooming now for me. You remember, it was blooming that time. It had lots of flowers, and I my kids, they broke this leaf. See what I did? You can learn something. See how you can save the leaf. And this orchid I want to show you. See, I didn't replant this orchid. It's sitting in this pot since last year. 1 year ago I bought this orchid, and still it's sitting in this liner pot. I want to see what can happen. You know, I sometimes I replant my orchids immediately. Sometimes I want to see what kind of changes it will happen if I don't replant. I want to learn everything about my flowers. That's why I didn't replant and I left it. And later on I will share with you what changes, what can happen if you don't replant. If I see something bad or good, I will share with you. See, this orchid is in bloom now here, and it has, look at this, the petals. Here I have 5 petals, and this is normal. I never saw this kind of blooms. Probably you saw, but it's for me for the first time. Here, see, here I have mealybug. The mealybugs, they came with my trash orchids, and still I am fighting with the mealybugs. And see, they're attacking my orchids all the time when I water them. As I told you, this flower has normal shape. Everything is okay with this, but this one, see, even if I don't tell you, you easily see the difference. This one has 5 petals, as normal orchids have, but this one, see, it has 6 petals. I never saw in Phalaenopsis orchids this kind of flowers. This is something strange for me. And see the shape of the lip. Here, this lip is normal. See here, this white thing, this is normal as usual, but here it has, I don't know, I will turn it this way and you will see here is something strange. It has some strange shape here. The lip of the lip shape is totally different, and I don't know, maybe it's a 7th petal and it didn't form, and it attached to the lip. I don't know what's going on here, because why I think that this is petal, because it got color from the petal. See, the same color and the same dots, and as if the 7th petal is sitting on the lip. See? And this orchid I wanted to show you. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you are new in this channel, please subscribe. If you like this video, please put thumbs up. We will discuss more problems, more success. I'm learning every day something new with my flowers, and I will of course will share with you how to deal with that kind of problems, and if I have something good I will of course share with you guys. Thank you for watching, and thank you for commenting my videos. I read all your comments, but sometimes I answer your comments which is necessary. Sometimes if I don't have time, I don't have chance to answer you, but I know what is bothering you, and this is my minus side. I will somehow answer your questions. Thank you guys. Bye. See you next time.